Los Angeles, California. With 13 million people and over 1,000 emergencies a day, it's often referred to as the local news capital of the world. Video journalists have captured an unbelievable catalog of events.
To see what our members had to endure is very difficult.
This is almost like a movie. It's hard to believe that this was real life.
With our first on-scene heroes' perspectives, this is an insight into their most thrilling moments. In this episode, a curious case at a curious location.
Somehow, this guy ends up 40 feet down one of these missile columns.
You don't know what's down there or what could still be active.
A wild police chase after a man goes on a violent rampage.
This individual was at random picking targets and shooting them.
And a hiker gets a little too close to a famous landmark.
He would have no way of finding his way out of there.
In the far outskirts of LA, firefighters are called out to a bizarre location with a bizarre scenario.
So this is a decommissioned missile base, and I'm not sure how the gentleman got there or how he got into the hole. Or why.
This is one of those stories where you kind of question yourself and think, how do they get themselves into this situation? It's a restricted area, not meant to be there. And somehow this guy ends up 40 feet down one of these missile columns.
Once a bustling hub of strategic defense, this abandoned missile base is now a death trap.
How an individual got in there or was supposed to even be in that area is unknown.
I think the suspect looked like he could have maybe been a transient, homeless, looking for a place to stay, ride out the weather, or maybe he was looking for something to steal. Maybe he thought there would be missiles in there. They probably sell for a lot of money on the black market.
The dangers of trespassing in a place like this, being a decommissioned missile base, you don't know what's down there or what could still be active.
Who knows how long he's been down there? He could have been down there days, he could have had a broken ankle. This could be a story where they find a body 3 years down the line.
First responders respond to so many different incidents, but this has to be one of the most dangerous types of incidents that they go to.
So our urban search and rescue team are really the best of the best. They're confined space specialists.
The firefighters and urban search team assess the situation, and their joint rescue effort begins.
Air monitoring is very important. It's that atmosphere inside there that can become a killer. So we use tools in the toolboxes like a 5-gas meter to be able to tell us what the oxygen, the carbon monoxide, dioxide levels are. Additionally, you'll see the big yellow piping of fresh air into that environment. The apparatus will be spaced to where we could put our large area ladder over that, and we'll do a high-angle rope rescue.
In this case, they lowered down what looked like a sleeping bag down to the victim.
What we call like a skid around a patient, that is a thick plastic that can bend to provide them protection when they're being pulled out, but it's also very slick, so it'll reduce any sort of friction and we'll be able to pull that individual out to safety.
Somehow he was able to get into that, and then they dragged him up through a rope system. I mean, it's phenomenal to watch.
Then we have firefighter paramedics standing by in a state of readiness to immediately treat that individual.
If this gentleman was arrested for trespassing, he would then be in police custody, so he would be handcuffed and transported for medical treatment before being booked.
This guy is extremely lucky to survive this.
The man is in critical condition and rushed to the hospital, although he may face fines for trespassing on government property. In Lincoln Heights, police are searching for a man who was on the run after assaulting a police officer.
When I arrived on scene, police had the whole area cordoned off. There was a manhunt underway.
Law enforcement officers need as much support as they can get. They need to find this person and find him immediately.
They locate the man who has climbed onto a roof to avoid arrest.
Finally, after 8.5 hours, the police helicopter spotted the suspect on the roof of a residential home.
It looks like the suspect was possibly confused or was under the influence of something.
So the cops are on heightened alert. You don't know where the gun is at this point.
To ensure his capture, the SWAT team are called in.
These guys are the elite.
In dealing with this situation with a suspect that has already exchanged gunfire with police, it's imperative that we have the best teams to deal with the situation. There are no resources that will be held back from this type of incident.
They don't know if he's still armed, where the gun is. The whole community's in danger in this situation.
Negotiations begin for the man's surrender.
The officers don't know if the suspect is still armed, so they have to be very careful in dealing with this situation.
The residents in this community, it's a very dangerous situation because there's this armed suspect on the roof of their house.
The suspect was originally armed with a gun, so it is unknown to police if he still has that weapon on him, so they had to tread carefully when approaching the suspect.
Thankfully, the man was not harmed, and the skilled negotiators were able to convince him to come down from the roof.
A lot of the time, standoff like this can end one way or the other. The person can go into custody nice and quiet, or the person can be involved in a shootout with police.
In this scenario, the SWAT team was able to move in and take the suspect into custody without incident.
The suspect didn't harm anybody, he wasn't injured, and they were able to take him into custody before anything else worse happened.
After an 8-hour standoff, the man is apprehended and taken into custody. Coming up,
This individual was driving through at random, picking targets and shooting them.
but first,
Somebody is driving on the wrong side of the freeway in the fast lane.
the roads of LA are no stranger to risk-taking drivers. It's midnight, and there are reports of a driver on the highway taking reckless driving to a whole new level.
In this case, I'd heard the call, so I was in the area and I was trying to get to it. Somebody is driving on the wrong side of the freeway at over freeway speeds in the fast lane.
The driver is heading westbound, but in the eastbound lanes, weaving between oncoming cars.
I arrived on scene maybe a minute after they crashed, and I've seen a lot of wrecks in my life. This one was the worst crash I've ever seen. The cars literally were mangled pieces of metal, and I didn't want to look in the cars.
Terrible accident. It takes me back to some of the terrible accidents that I've had, throughout my 30-year career.
That's horrific. Absolutely horrific.
We may never know why the driver was driving on the wrong side of the freeway.
They could have been impaired with a substance. There could have been a medical emergency taking place.
DUI drivers or drunk drivers become confused and think that they're entering the freeway the correct way, but they're actually entering in oncoming traffic.
The highway is closed, and firefighters arrive on scene and begin the rescue effort.
As first responders, we wanted to immediately determine the number of victims that we have. We're going to physically inspect every vehicle, determine that patient count, and then start actually treating patients that we can. based on what their level of injury is.
There was a husband and wife in one of the cars, and then the driver of the wrong way vehicle. They all died.
It's very sad when terrible things happen to people that are just driving and minding their own business.
How life can change in an instant.
People need to be mindful of not doing anything while they drive except driving, because these accidents happen just in a split second.
Nearly 120 people are killed every day by guns in the United States. And these incidents become even more terrifying when they appear to be random attacks.
As I arrived on scene, I noticed that police officers were standing around a car. There was an Uber driver that had a couple of bullet holes through the window. The driver was chatting with the police and he was showing them the dash cam of the suspect vehicle. Within a few minutes, I hear come across the radio, a Starbucks drive-through, victim shot at close range, 2 minutes away. So I raced down the street to find a victim in the drive-through sitting next to his wife as he was about to order coffee, had been shot and killed by the same suspect in a white Jeep. She was a newlywed. Such a sad story.
It's 1:05 a.m. north of Los Angeles, and police have been called out to reports of a driver on a shooting rampage.
Moments later, another call comes in of a white Jeep had killed someone in a black Escalade.
So then he pulls up to another innocent human being, shoots him through the passenger side window, resulting in another fatality.
In 10 minutes, this armed and dangerous driver has taken 2 lives and seriously injured another.
What appears this individual was driving through at random, picking targets and shooting them from the Starbucks drive-through with a blue Mustang, a black SUV at a traffic light.
LAPD spot the car in downtown as it's entering the freeway. They quickly followed the vehicle, got into pursuit with him before the suspect started firing rounds at the LAPD.
Coming up.
What I saw in my footage later on was unbelievable.
And
one vehicle is on fire. The one next to it is upside down with 2 people trapped in the vehicle.
north of Los Angeles, the SWAT team is in pursuit of an armed driver who has just taken 2 lives.
The suspect leads police on a freeway pursuit for the next 3.5 hours.
Video journalist Shannon is on scene and following the suspect.
He stops on top of an overhead bridge. I got there quite quickly. I parked my vehicle on the side of the freeway and I crawled up the embankment where I was laying on the side of the freeway in front of the suspect with my camera trained on his face. And what I saw in my footage later on was unbelievable. The suspect eyeballed me.
That's a chilling moment where you see this now mass murderer moving around in his vehicle, thinking who knows what, and he has direct eye contact with the videographer. Kind of puts some of the hairs up on your arms. As a captain, if my firefighters were that close, we would have them back up, get behind something. We don't like to be in a direct line of sight due to safety concerns.
A standoff happened for about 2.5 hours after that when LAPD surrounded the man front and back with SWAT vehicles. Armored SWAT teams came in. The man shot at the SWAT team and the SWAT team ended it. The man's life was gone.
Tragically, the SWAT team was forced to act and stop this man's random shooting spree before he could take any more innocent lives. In moments of chaos and danger, sometimes the greatest displays of compassion and bravery shine through from the help of everyday heroes.
So what we have here is two vehicles have been involved in a traffic collision on the freeway. One is upright and one is upside down next to each other, which is pretty unique.
It's 2 a.m. and first responders are called out to a car collision on a freeway.
Freeway collisions are usually the worst type of collisions. They're usually high speeds that leads into the vehicle flipping. Flipping vehicles usually results in fatalities.
As you can see in this clip, one vehicle is on fire. The one next to it is upside down with two people trapped in the vehicle. Good Samaritans, California Highway Patrol, you can see them trying to rip off those doors of that car to try and save those lives.
The rescuers selflessly attempt to free the trapped victims.
Anybody that's willing to help involving a collision on a freeway is going to put themselves at some kind of risk. These Good Samaritans absolutely put their lives in danger.
You've got one vehicle fully ablaze. The one next to it's upside down, but all they wanted to do was save those people's lives in that upside down vehicle.
There is something positive by seeing just innocent Good Samaritans who are risking their lives to try and save other people's lives. It brings you just that good feeling that there's still some good people out there. I have interviewed many Good Samaritans, and they really actually do come to the rescue of a lot of people.
First responders from the Colton Fire Department arrive on scene, start an aggressive fire attack, and then also start determining how many patients they actually had in the two vehicles, and then at that time render care to who they were able to still treat on scene.
Two people that were in the upside down vehicle, they sadly lost their lives.
Thanks to the hard work of the first responders and the heroic motorists who were passing by, this man is transported to hospital to have his injuries treated. Coming up.
He would have no way of finding his way out of there.
What on earth is this guy thinking?
But first,
some suspects pulled up in a car and just opened fire.
You see his friend who was visibly distraught and upset.
there are close to 120,000 victims of gun violence every year in the United States. Attacks can be random, but sometimes assailants carefully plan their move.
It's a frantic situation unfolding right here. You've got a black Cadillac Escalade with a driver standing outside the car, freaking out outside the West Hollywood Sheriff Station.
It's 5:30 p.m. in West Hollywood, right in the middle of peak hour traffic, and authorities have had reports of shots fired.
When the Sheriff's Department came running out of the police station in patrol cars, they probably didn't know what was on their hands. All they could see was on the side of the Cadillac Escalade, the windows had been smashed out, looked like it was from gunshots.
Was it road rage? Was it random? Possibly gang-related? Should the public be worried?
This shooting appears to be far from random. This could be a targeted attack.
So what happened here was a car was parked at the gas station getting gas, and then some suspects pulled up in a car and just opened fire.
Somebody got shot, bro.
The gentleman in the back seat had been shot.
The sheriff grabs the victim out of the car in a desperate attempt to save the man's life as the other officers hold his distraught friend back.
You see his friend who was visibly distraught and upset.
Sheriffs jumped into life-saving mode and attempted to save the individual.
It's quite scary to see because it's a life or death situation here.
More officers arrive on scene to control traffic and the crowds.
The sheriffs attempted to save his life by performing CPR.
If the person's got a slight chance of a pulse, the ambulance is going to transport that person. The man was transported to hospital and unfortunately succumbed to his injuries. Now, it came out later on that this young kid was quite a well-known Atlanta, Georgia rapper. It's becoming all too common in recent times that rappers have been having turf wars. People have been getting shot and killed. This is not the first time this has happened.
A tragic loss of talent and youth. Instantly recognizable Hollywood sign brings in tourists from all across the globe. An international icon. People will do anything to see it up close.
Everybody knows the Hollywood sign.
This sign is so iconic.
People love Hollywood, and they love the Hollywood sign. They want to get closer, so they go hiking, apparently at night.
Somehow this man has ended up in the middle of the hills, just below the world-famous sign.
So anytime a call comes out at the Hollywood sign, you know it's going to be something good.
So, I mean, it's the middle of the night. I mean, what on earth is this guy thinking?
Hiking at night, especially in the wilderness, is very dangerous. You never know what kind of wildlife you're going to come across.
We have a lot of wildlife, mountain lions, bobcats.
Rattlesnakes, black bears, coyotes.
So it could be very dangerous for him.
The Hollywood sign is built on a hillside. It's rugged terrain. You can't get up to that Hollywood sign easily.
It's pitch black up there. He would have no way of finding his way out of there. And it's so dangerous because one slip, he can fall down into those canyons.
So this guy on his midnight walk decides he's going to try it anyway and gets stuck. And what a lot of people don't realize is it's actually illegal to get up close and personal with it.
The only way he would have got in there was by jumping the fence.
There is a fencing around the Hollywood sign, and if you get too close, it triggers an alarm.
Within a few minutes of tripping that alarm, he's surrounded by LAPDs.
Triggering the alarm may have been the best thing for this wayward hiker, as the helicopter is his only chance of survival.
It wouldn't have been easy for the police to get in there, so they had to call in the search and rescue helicopter to hoist him out.
I mean, if you're going to do it, you should do it in style, right? So just imagine from his point of view, it'd be like being in the movies.
The helicopter scooping up the man with the Hollywood sign in the background. Great footage.
It screams Hollywood. This story actually sold really well, not just in the US, around the world.
So as you can see, law enforcement took this suspect into custody without any further incident, and will have to answer the judge on this one.
Though this man may feel like an action hero now, his perspective will undoubtedly change once his feet are back on the ground.